In some cities, crimes do not announce themselves. They happen, then disappear. In a city that never sleeps, the crimes began without reason. No fixed time, no repeated place, victims with no connection, and a killer with no pattern. All the evidence pointed to one person, a mysterious neighbor, disturbed, eccentric. But is everything that appears terrifying truly evil? Sometimes evil is not what we imagine, and at other times, our fears lead us to accuse the innocent, while the real killer is closer than we think, watching. The truth was not what everyone believed, but the most important question is, who is the killer? Welcome to the story of the Alexandria slasher. This is the secret. Here ends the series of letters that I still possess about this story. As the reader has surely noticed, they are divided into two parts. Letters exchanged between me and Adele sent me the letters I had written to him so that I could add them to the collection, and letters between Professor Cathrell and his Egyptian counterpart, Dr. Mohammed Shaheen, which I obtained later on. Then one letter to my brother that I never sent. And now, there is no escape from returning to the traditional style of narration and relying once again on my memory to retrieve the events. The reader must have understood my position with Adele. He holds a certain theory about the Alexandria serial killer and believes that I have some role in proving it. Come with me to where we stopped. He and I are sitting in his car, darkness enveloping the city, raindrops still falling on the window glass, and the streets of Alexandria completely empty of passersby. This is the part at which my letter to my brother, Reda, ended, isn't it? So let us continue, then. I said to Adele in astonishment, "And how am I supposed to lead you to the killer? I know only one way, that I be the killer myself." He laughed in the darkness of the car, the reflections of the streetlights glinting in his eyes, then said calmly, "Listen, we'll have dinner at home first, and then I'll explain everything to you." After, Seham, who seemed uneasy toward me, cleared the dinner plates from the table, and little Ashraf fell asleep in his seat, Adele asked her to take him to his bed and leave us alone. She leaned toward him, whispering, "Did you tell her about the matter of Hawaida?" It seems she truly hates me. He smiled coldly and said, "Any fool could see that you didn't give the girl enough attention." Then he began peeling an orange with a knife, placed it on my plate, and said in a calm tone, "She is her sister after all." He then lit a cigarette, leaned back in his seat, and finally said in a low, serious voice, "Now we return to our real subject. I was telling you about those mysterious crimes sweeping through Alexandria, crimes we had not been able to get even a single step closer to. I was in that state when your first letter reached me. That letter presented the solution to me on a silver platter. You live next to a mysterious neighbor, thin, with a strange skin tone. This description has become familiar now. We heard it today from the coffee seller, remember? Then what? His car is blue. And he travels to Alexandria over and over again. Note this carefully. A neighbor who eats spices in the middle of the night, pounds something in the early hours of dawn, and cannot stand the taste of cake. A neighbor who throws human bones into the building's air shaft. A neighbor who claims to be a naval officer, and he is lying. A neighbor whose features look like those of a patient with kidney failure, with rough hands and distorted fingerprints. I think you're beginning to understand what I mean. I said in astonishment, "Do you believe that?" He answered calmly, "Yes, I believe so. I'm not entirely certain, but I believe so." Imagine with me this young man, sick in an indescribable way. He travels to Alexandria several times, waits in dark alleys until a homeless man or a passerby crosses his path, then kills him violently. With cold care, he cuts pieces from his flesh, dismembers his limbs, puts the remains in a plastic bag, and then returns with them to Cairo. And here the real performance begins. At night, he starts cutting and cooking, adding spices, pounding in the mortar until he disturbs the neighbors, then throws the remaining bones into the air shaft. His stomach has grown accustomed to human flesh, so an ordinary piece of cake no longer appeals to it. That is why he never opens his apartment door at night, no matter who is knocking. This is how we explain his mysterious nightly outings to dispose of inedible remains. And this is how we explain his terrifying appearance, the marks of cannibalism on his face, and his rough hands as a result of violent manual work with the cleaver night after night. My stomach tightened as I tried to swallow this image. I whispered, "My God." I steadied myself and said, "And the tickets? Why doesn't he travel by his own car or with a train pass?" He swallowed the orange segment he was holding and replied, "He's smart. He knows the car would be an obvious trail that could be followed, and it wouldn't be hard to find someone who could note down its number and tell us about it. As for the pass, he expects, under certain circumstances, that we will look for those who travel regularly to Alexandria, and he is excessively cautious because there are hundreds of others who do the same. As for the tickets, he keeps them until they pile up, then throws them in the trash, never expecting a nosy neighbor like you who enjoys rummaging through the neighbor's garbage bins. As for the bones, why doesn't he throw them far away?" Sighed in resignation and said, "This is the weak point in my theory. Why doesn't he dispose of them far from the circle of suspicion? In any case, it is difficult to know the complex psychological motives that drive a cannibal. He may act with precision at one moment and be careless at another. I don't know. In any case, it is just a theory lacking real proof." I reflected for a moment in disgust and revulsion. I had been alone with this monster at night and had even wished for his friendship one day. And now, the terror I had left behind in England, Romania, Scotland, and Kafr Badr is racing ahead of me today to my quiet apartment. I asked Adel while staring at the chandelier on the ceiling, "And did I tell you that Azat traveled to Alexandria today? Who said that?" "The potato vendor on our street. He's your man, of course." He looked at me in astonishment, a shadow of a sly smile playing on his lips. "What is this nonsense?" I said coldly, "It's not nonsense. The appearance of a potato vendor on our upscale street for the first time in 20 years can only mean that he is an undercover policeman you failed to conceal properly." Laughed and said through his teeth, "You really are smart, and I hope Azat isn't that smart." I said, "Since when have you been monitoring him?" He answered, slowly exhaling the smoke of his cigarette, "Since the 19th of January last, that is, for nearly 3 months, since you told me about the bones and we found the man's fingerprint on them." And the potato vendor isn't the only one. There are about 10 undercover policemen sent by your security directorate after a high-level meeting in which we studied your letters and my own suspicions. And the result? Negative. Either we are mistaken, or he noticed our men just as you noticed them. He stopped traveling and going out at night. Add to that your foolishness in taking his fingerprints from the cup, which made him feel that something was being plotted against him. And did he travel to Alexandria tonight? And will he return to the building carrying a bag full of certain things? We don't know yet. The men there haven't submitted their reports yet, so wait by the phone. And why don't you raid his apartment tonight and seize whatever you find there?" Ito smiled coldly and said, "You don't understand the law." Then he got up and paced the room, lowering his head as he said, "This murderer is a citizen and has rights. We cannot raid his apartment without a warrant from the prosecution, which must find our reasons convincing, and that is not something I expect." Then he turned toward the phone and said in a low voice, "There is something else worth mentioning." I exclaimed, asking, "What is it?" He said slowly, exhaling the smoke of his cigarette, "That venerable professor who visited you in your apartment, Mohammed Shaheen. What business is that meddler of his?" Something along those lines. We learned through our means that he asked the doorman about a resident in the building named Tharwat or Talat or something like that, and the doorman, who doesn't like you very much, volunteered your name and said that you were suspicious and strange in your behavior. Me? Yes. And the neighbors volunteered even more accusations against you. The residents of your building detest you to a degree that makes me wonder why. And so the man paid you a visit. The very visit you described to me in your letter dated the 17th of March. Reflect with me on what happened. The man appeared terrified for no reason, cautious without justification. He scrutinizes your food and wants a sample of it, and studies the cannibal statues with interest. Then he nearly faints when he sees you eating meat. The man behaves as if he knows he is in the apartment of a cannibal. I cried out in astonishment, and everything the man had done now seemed logical to me. Now I understand. And that's why he told everyone he knew that he had come to visit me. Adele smiled and said, "Exactly. And if you think about the situation more deeply, you'll understand. He was looking for Tharwat or Rafat, and the doorman told him your name was Rafat. But in reality, he was looking for Azat. Both, Rafat and Azat, are eccentric, complicated, and live alone. And that means that Professor Mohammed Shaheen is searching, like us, for the same thing and the same person. He is holding the other end of the thread that we are holding. And in the middle of the thread hangs Azat. That is why we must find out what this professor knows." I sat in silence, burdened with worry, which made Adele ask me what was wrong. I said, "They're my wretched neighbors, and I was always extremely polite and courteous with them. Do you see what they think of me?" "A cannibal?" Laughed and said, "Egyptians do not like the withdrawn and generally feel uncomfortable around them. They understand you being rude or loud, but if you are withdrawn, polite, and mysterious, they will suspect all kinds of things about you." I leaned back in my chair and sighed, saying, "And now, have you looked into this?" Mohammed Sheen said, "The information we have says that he is a respectable professor, a man beyond reproach except for his excessive kindness that borders on naivete. But we have not yet asked him about the source of his information. As for Azat, we know nothing about him. No relatives, no current or former job, not a single friend we can reach. All we know is that he goes shopping and to the bank where he withdraws from an account of unknown origin containing 8,000 pounds, then disappears at night to destinations we do not know, as I said before." And suddenly, the telephone rang. My heart leapt into my throat, and Adele started, then composed himself and picked up the receiver. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. He said in a tense voice, "They lost him? Idiots. He misled them? 1 a.m.? Yes. Then what? Ah, Allah said that? Are you sure? All right. Many thanks." Then he slowly put down the receiver and raised his head toward me with clear signs of triumph on his face. So I asked him expectantly, "Do you know what happened?" He smiled and said, "I think you're going to tell me anyway, but let me guess. He managed to mislead your men when he left the house. So they weren't certain he had traveled to Alexandria. But Allah, who is undoubtedly one of your informants, found clear evidence against him at 1 a.m. Isn't that so?" He exclaimed in suppressed irritation, "If you don't stop constantly pretending to be clever, I won't tell you anything." I laughed softly and said, All right, I won't deduce anything. Just tell me what happened." Cleared his throat and said, staring at me, "They say they lost track of him the moment he left the house." "I told you that before." "True, but they saw him return at 1 a.m., and he was carrying a large, heavy bag, and of course dressed in black clothes." Then he paused for a moment, looked steadily into my face, and said slowly, "And the most important part, he was wearing a bandage on his cheek." There are still secrets that haven't been revealed, and characters that haven't appeared yet, and a greater truth hidden in what's to come. Each episode brings us one step closer, but every step reveals that the road is longer than we thought. Don't judge yet, and don't think the picture is complete. It's still continuing, and the next episode will open a new door, one we may not be able to close. In the next episode, we will uncover a new part of the mystery, another side of the truth, and characters that have yet to appear. Until we meet again, remember, the ending is not always what we expect.